How's it going, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Respect and Praise Show with your one and only Miguel Mike Medina Triple M. And in this episode, it's always fun to work with this person. She is tremendous, she's magnificent. And you know what they say, three's a charm. So for the third time, I have this person for the Respect and Praise Show. She is someone that is just relentless. It's always great to work with her, collaborate with her. And I just want her to continue to stay consistent, to continue and keep doing what she's doing, keep doing what she loves to do, because I feel that she has a gift for it. She's very knowledgeable and she's very talented. So check out this interview. You guys will definitely love it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a ground to present to you for the third time. Third time. One, two, three. Three-time guest on the Respect and Praise Show. My friend, my partner, frequent collaborator, Avry Jones. Avry, what's up? How's it going? How are you?
I'm doing very well, Miguel. Thank you so very much. I'm honored to be on your show just as the first time you asked me and the second, and being on your show a third time is a wonderful thrill. Thank you.
You know what they say, three's a charm.
Absolutely.
All right, so Avry, the Olympics, just wrapped up in Paris and now it's coming back to the USA, LA 2028. So my question to you is, are you considering on going?
I would love the opportunity to go. I think there's something about the Olympics, especially like I was old enough when they came to Atlanta in 1996. And living in Florida, it was almost like it was in our backyard. And to be there, even though, there's still that tragedy of the bombing that happened in Centennial Park at the time that still kind of looms over it, there was just something about it being in Atlanta, being, near home. And LA, even though it's across the country, I think there's still something because the last time the Olympics were in Los Angeles was 1984. And I think them coming back to the United States, especially the showing that the United States had in Paris, I think there's a thrill that you have not just the athletes that just competed in Paris, but a new host of athletes that in the next 4 years want to showcase their skills on the biggest stage in the world. And also, and we talked about this, you have some more sports being added. Like in Paris, they had breaking as a new sport. So they're bringing back baseball and softball. They're adding cricket. They're adding squash. And also the fact that you had Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav, bringing, a little bit of that hip hop flair and a lot of notoriety to some of the sports that may have been, pushed to the backside, while everyone is talking about gymnastics and, track and field, we got to see, both the men's and women's polo teams. We got to see how the women's rugby team fared. So I see in the next 4 years not only um, a host of other people getting involved in what it takes to get to the Olympics, but also putting a spotlight on some of those sports that may be pushed to the wayside. And another thing about the Olympics being in Los Angeles, like Paris, even though the time difference was only about 5 hours, with, for those of us who live on the East Coast, 3 hours behind for LA, it's just going to be, a great opportunity to see some of these Olympic moments live. And I think it would be great, just like in Paris, to let the country experience that. And when opening ceremonies come around, whatever is happening at the time, I think the United States as a whole should be there to watch it, whether they're there in Los Angeles or they're at their homes. Granted, I was at work watching the opening ceremonies, which was okay, but I think everybody in the country should be able to experience that when it happens.
Summer Olympics 2028. I'm highly considering because I always said to myself that the Olympics, I want to experience it in person at least once in my lifetime. And now I have my chance. I got 4 years to prepare myself for this. And I'm not too sure about the Winter Olympics yet because that one excites me as well in Salt Lake City. So, but if I do this, I don't want to go alone. So hopefully, we might work something out there. But I know that I definitely, and we've spoken about this before. I definitely want us, and I'm gonna try to do everything I can to see what can I do with the MMM Journal to get those media credits, to go to the Rose Bowl 2026. Rose Bowl 2026. I have to do that one that year, but God's timing, not mine. So let's see. That's how I look at things nowadays. It's never on me, me, me. Whatever the man above says, whatever he wants me to do,
Amen.
I'll go
Yes.
with that. So
Yes.
yeah. And throughout my life, especially these last few years, that's how, it's turned out to be. I would Most of the time I would plan things and then it wouldn't go through. But again, everything happens for a reason. So hopefully the man above can bless us, to both Rose Bowl and the Summer Olympics, which will be on the West Coast for that one. So
Yes.
yeah, hopefully. Um, Baseball, MLB will be MLB. They're constantly gonna be evolving. They're constantly gonna be making changes. What are your thoughts about this new rule that they're trying to implement in terms of restricting starting pitchers just to 6 innings?
That's concerning to me. That's concerning to me because growing up watching baseball, it was kind of expected for pitchers to go, nine, unless the game doesn't call for it, or at least eight. Again, like I grew up in Florida, so I grew up watching the Atlanta Braves. So around the time when Tom Glavine and John Smoltz and Steve Avery and Greg Maddux make their way to the Atlanta Braves, a lot of them had complete games. Greg Maddux, he was almost lights out when he was starting. So the fact that they're trying to create a rule to restrict a player, in my mind, you're limiting them. Basically, now you're telling pitchers where they have the opportunity, and let's use the example, and we've already seen it twice, no hitters. We've seen pitchers be locked in, and you're telling me at the sixth inning mark when the game is official that if a player has close to an achievement like that, a no hitter, perfect game, what have you, that you want to automatically take them out. You're limiting the player. You are, you are, it may seem extreme to say, but I think you're suffocating the player a bit. You have people who that's what they want to do. They're trained to, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give my best, I'm going to do what I can for my team to shut down the other team. I'm going to trust my team to score runs for me while I'm on the mound, and I'm going to do my job. Now, if I can only do my job 7 or 8 innings and I lose my control, I get in trouble, I have some walks, men get on base, then I trust my bullpen. But in this case, when you're literally telling players, oh, you're only good for 6 innings, that could also hurt players mentally as well. And one thing we've seen in the past few years, a lot of professional athletes and athletes in general want to focus on their mental health. You're literally going to tell a player that when you get a baseball, when you step on the mound, you're only good for 6 innings. And I really think that's wrong. I really think that's wrong. And over the few years, granted, we've kind of seen that where teams want to uh, not overdo it for their pitcher, which I can understand, especially if you know you have, let's say, a 3-man rotation, you want to have your ace, not overdo it when it comes back around time for their start. But literally saying, oh, we're only going to limit you to 6 innings, I think is doing more damage to a pitcher than they think. So, like for example, so like the pitch clock, I was weary of it, but I thought it to be a good idea once you see the implementation of it, especially in terms of, base running. We've got to see some really exciting base runners on the path when they get on base. But you've also seen pitchers use that clock as an advantage for them. And when they get locked in, you see some great stuff. But I think it would be damaging to the game to say a pitcher is only good for 6 innings. Because like I said before, and we've seen it twice this year. We've seen no hitters. We've seen pitchers locked in and they have accomplished feats that are just absolutely amazing to see. And the last one with Blake Schnell, I think was pitcher, was perfect. Even though it wasn't perfect, I think it was probably a great no hitter for a great pitcher. And if you were to limit him, I think you could see a lot of players just losing their mind. You're telling me I'm locked in. I don't have any runners on base. I haven't gotten any hits. I haven't walked anybody. And you want to sit me down? No. I think it would be very damaging to the game. I think they already have an issue when it comes to the strike zone, but now literally taking the fact that you're limiting professional athletes. I mean, they're professional athletes for a reason. They have a sport that they love. They train themselves to be the best, to be at the highest caliber they can be. And then all of a sudden you're telling them that you're only like medium, instead of being, at the highest, echelon uh of a sport, you're just now medium. You're not, it's almost like they're saying you're not worth much.
I despise the rule. I'm a firm believer in when you start something, finish it. And I mean, we had the other day Pedro Severino. Um, he pitched a complete game for the Mets. No, I'm sorry, Luis Severino. He pitched a complete game and he only allowed 4 hits. And I think he had like 1 or 2 outs left in the ninth inning. When I see the manager come in, I'm like, please, like, come on, do
Let
not take him
let
out. But
him let him finish.
he let
Let
him
him finish.
finish. Yep, he let him finish, and he did. So this is gonna be very catastrophic for the game. You're babying the athletes. I don't think this is going to reduce injuries because at the end of the day, injuries are part of the game. It's always going to be there. No matter how much you try to water it down or try to make it less aggressive, less physical, it's going to be there regardless. So I really hate it. To be honest with you,
I,
I really hate
I
it.
I agree with you. I
I
agree with
my,
you. You're telling me, imagine the best pitchers in the game, and we can have this discussion because just amazing as pitchers. And I want to talk about, let's say, the ones that are just, I want to go back to the golden age. Let you mentioned the Mets. Let's talk about Tom Seaver for a minute. I mean, you're talking about like probably the highest caliber you can get. And you're telling me what if Tom Seaver was in an era where he only pitched 6 innings? Or let's go a bit further, talking about probably maybe one of the hardest throwing pitchers, and yet a pitcher where you kind of don't want to mess with, especially if you're Robin Van Tour. Let's talk about Nolan Ryan. Imagine Nolan Ryan in his career only averaging 6 innings a game. You are literally recently we just had an announcement of Hall of Fame players. If you want to look at another way, you're also now limiting, if this rule goes into effect, you're also now limiting what is going to happen in this next generation of players getting to the Hall of Fame. You know, I was I was at work and they were talking to Felix Hernandez. A few days ago was the 12th anniversary of his no-hitter. And the fact that it was in Seattle, and the fact that he played his entire career there, and that section, the King's Court, was just going absolutely insane about what there's something about watching a baseball game, especially if you're there and you know something special is happening, and then it gets limited to 6 innings. So if they do this, you're going to have a generation of players that they're not going to have the innings, the strikeouts. Um, Even if you get a World Series ring, you're not going to have that generation that kind of has those stats to get into the Hall of Fame. So if you want to talk about a few now, so like for example, they were talking about Felix Hernandez. Felix Hernandez is doing, I think, a couple of years. I definitely believe he is a Hall of Fame pitcher, even though he didn't get a World Series ring. But even if you want to talk about, some of the now, you know, Garrett Cole, he's got something there.
I was
Justin Ver
not to interrupt Avery. Felix Hernandez, I think he's gonna get in, but I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer,
I
in my
he,
opinion.
I
But you know what the thing, Avery, is that, and this is, and I'm tough when it comes to the Hall of Fame. Nowadays, it has gotten easier to get into the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of
you think
players. Yes, yes, I believe so. And not just baseball, but I'm talking about in sports in general. I feel that there's, I can't mention everyone, but there's several athletes in every sport: baseball, basketball, and football. Those three in particular. There's guys that are in the Hall of Fame that I don't feel that they should be Hall of Famers. But I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I feel that it has gotten a little bit more easier in terms of letting people get into the Hall of Fame.
yeah, I can kind of agree with you a little bit, especially because getting into the Hall of Fame, when you mentioned those three sports, baseball, basketball, football, it was kind of a guarantee. If you won a title, Super Bowl, World Series, NBA title, like that was your ticket in. But, there has to be other things involved when it comes to getting into the Hall of Fame. For me, I think it's your what you bring to the game. So what aspects have you brought to the sport in a particular time frame that you played? And we can give another example, and I kind of believe this one. Shannon Sharp, during his Hall of Fame speech, mentioned his brother Sterling. In his particular time frame, Sterling Sharp was probably one of the best wide receivers to play in his particular time frame, and he is still without that jacket. And the interesting thing, I think that's a bit of a travesty. It's not easy. Injuries stopped him. But Shannon Sharp mentioned it. If you were to look in the particular time frame of which a player played, What aspects did they bring to the sport? Did they elevate the sport? Did they elevate the sport in a particular city? For example, hockey. Hockey is kind of one of those tough ones where winning the Stanley Cup is actually the hardest thing to do. So, and we mentioned this, when you have some of these small markets, as you will. I live here in Florida. The Florida Panthers just won, the Stanley Cup a few months ago. And you're kind of talking about those players that just got their first cup. So let's talk about their goaltender, if you will, for a minute, Sergei Bobrovsky. So now are you saying, like, once he has his name on the cup, does that mean he should be in the Hall of Fame? The name on the cup isn't just the one thing. How are you elevating the sport? Now, I could say he's elevating the sport in an area where, football and basketball rule. You're close to the Miami area. That's Dolphins country, that's Miami Heat country. And I know you've mentioned Miami Heat recently, and they're gearing up again. So I think for the Hall of Fame, it's not just the title. I think it's how the player elevates the sport and their city. And Sterling Sharp is still one of those. I really believe he deserves a jacket, and he's probably not going to get one. As much as we can hope and pray, but during his time frame in which he played, if you saw him play, it was electric. And as baseball is, I think Justin Verlander is going to get in. Like, he has the stats, he has the accomplishments. I think he's going to get in.
That's a lock. That's a lock.
Garrett Cole, depending on how he plays for the next few years, he could be difficult to get in. Blake Snell, who we just talked about recently, I think he'd be difficult to get in, even though he has an MVP award. So I can agree and disagree that, yes, it has gotten easier, but at the same time, let's look at the qualifications of a player during a time they played. You mentioned Felix Fernandez. He could probably sneak in first ballot, but second time around, I think so. I think so. What Felix Hernandez did for Seattle is, right up there for what Ken Griffey Jr. did when he was there. And granted, he played other places, but there was something about the 12 seasons that Felix Hernandez was there that was just amazing. It's also the same thing with Ichiro Suzuki. I think he's due. And it's amazing because he doesn't have a World Series ring, but look what he has done for the sport.
He's
Look
a
what
first
he has
ballot.
done for the
Ichiro's first ballot. Everything is there. Everything is
look.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Look at what he has done for the sport. He played in Seattle, he played in New York, he played in Miami, and then he went back to Seattle to end his career. Look at what he's done for the sport. And I think that is kind of the turning point. So I do agree with you. It is a bit easier, but at the same time, is what are the individuals bringing to the sport that allows them to be enshrined in their respective Hall of Fames, whether it be Cooperstown in baseball or Toronto for, hockey, or, Naismith award for basketball, or Canton for football. It's one of those, like for any sport, when you say a name, you know who we're talking about, even if you're not a fan of the game or the sport in general. There's something about saying someone's name, you know who that is. Even we saw it in the Olympics. Kobe Bryant. Still to this day, you mention Kobe Bryant, and I say this with the utmost respect. You mentioned Kobe Bryant, you're talking about one of the best basketball players to ever play. And he also elevated the sport along with his time that he spent with the Lakers. And the fact that his family was there to see, the women's national team play was I think a wonderful moment for them. But there's something about when you say someone's name, you're like, oh, oh, he plays whatever. Oh, that's a Hall of Famer. And we can do it now. Like, you say Wayne Gretzky, that's hockey. It's almost like Gordie Howe, that's Mr. Hockey. But both of them are Hall of Fame players. So we can agree to disagree on that one because the game has also changed. Just like we're talking about with baseball, the game has changed. The game's all professional sports is always going to change, whether it be if you think to cater to the player or baby the player, as you see, it's always going to change. It's always going to change. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the better. Sometimes it's going to elevate the sport. Sometimes it's going to bring, more fans to a sport. But just as the Olympics, there's something about sports that bring us together, and we can agree to disagree to say this is good, this is bad, not sure about this, what just happened there. But there's something about sports, no matter where we're from, no matter what culture we're a part of, that when we're watching a game, an event, a match, we're brought together by their athleticism, by their story, that we can't help but want to be a part of. And there are many events in sports, even a lot during the Olympics. So, when, just like you say,
Avery,
when
Avery,
you want to make it
Avery, wait,
easier.
hold up, Avery. I gotta ask you one more question because we're running out of time.
Okay,
But
sorry
this
about
is a
that.
topic. No, it's all right. This is a topic that we're gonna have to talk about in a separate content because
Yes.
there's a lot of things I gotta talk to you about that, especially Sterling Sharp. That one, I can't disagree with you because what he did in that 7 year period, Green Bay, was it depends. It depends on what kind of particular player. But that one, alongside with the whole Hall of Fame thing, there's so much I want to get into that. But we're just running out of time. So I gotta ask you one more
Yeah,
thing.
sorry about that.
It's all right. No, no, no. It's all right. It's good, but I gotta ask you one more thing to wrap this up. So what are you currently working on right now? What are you is a two question. What are you working on right now? And what are we expecting next from Avery Jones?
It's amazing because I actually had this thought yesterday, what I want to do. I'm still with Walmart as a transportation coordinator. However, I'm looking to move on from Walmart, whether it be in tech, which is where my degrees are, but also I finally started my lifelong journey into sports podcast. I recorded 2 episodes over the weekend. So hopefully I can have those 2 posted. Basically, it's an idea I've had for about a year, talking about how I got into sports. And the first 2 episodes, we actually talked about it. One episode is rugby. And one episode, of course, is the sport that I absolutely got into and love to this day, and that's baseball. So, look out for, Lifelong Journey podcast series, hopefully to drop this weekend, 2 episodes. But I also love the fact that I'm been working with you, Miguel, for about 3 years as a writer for the MMM Journal. I would like to continue that relationship. I love the fact that you're giving me the opportunity to not only write about sports, but music, movies, hopefully video games in the future. These are things I love. These are things that are an extension of me, that you can learn more about me than just what may be on a piece of paper. And I love the fact that now we're in a time where, you know, with a microphone, and a little bit of editing skills from YouTube, you can produce something fabulous that people all over the world can see. And just like, we can come together, through sports and humor and music, then we can also come together, and discuss things on a podcast like why we love it, when, why we love this particular movie, or how we got into, you know, sports in general, whether it be a generational aspect or whether you just sat down and watched something for the first time and thought it was the best thing ever and it's become part of your life. And that's the wonderful thing that I've enjoyed about content creating, whether working with you or working with Jim or just trying to figure out, what I want to do. I've greatly enjoyed the experience these past few years. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Avery. I mean, it's been um a blessing to have been working with you ever since we met in sports broadcasting course back in 2021. It has been a tremendous journey to collaborate with you and to continue, hopefully, for many more years. But college football time, year three on the corner, so be on the lookout for that. College football time with Avery Miguel. Oh man, we love college football. But Avery, thank you so much for being a guest once again on the Respect and Praise show. I salute you to everything that you're doing, madam. And like I said, everything that we do, we got to put in the hands of the man above first, because without him, without health, we can't do anything. So Avery, thank you so much, and continue crushing it. Keep crushing it.
Thank you, Miguel. Again, thank you. I'm honored to be on the Respect and Praise show for the third time. Again, I love the fact that we got a chance to meet and we collaborated. And again, granted, it's not in our hands, but when we put it in the hands of the man upstairs, he will do wonderful things for us as long as we believe in him. Thank you again, Miguel. I enjoyed this greatly.